Welcome to Living Chassidus. Together, let's live the Chassidus we learn.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning, 15 minutes to change our lives. Base, Pashas Naso. We're discussing the sotah and how that applies to us, because it says in the pasuk, sister Ishtay, when his wife turned astray, and it says, "Ein Adam over Avera, Ella im Nechut Ruach Shtos." The person doesn't know an Avera unless the Ruach Shtos comes to him. An example that we're giving is this case of suspected adulteress. So we question this: are we being compared to a suspected adulteress if we do an Avera? And what are we saying? A person doesn't do an Avera unless the Ruach Shtos comes over them. So, like, we get overcome by our taivas and suddenly we're adulterous. We're suspected adulterous women. Not women, but you know what I mean? And that was essentially the question. And he said, and even more, it says in Tanya, that we should sanctify ourselves with what is permissible. Meaning, even if something that's permissible to do, it's not an Avera, it's klippus nega. It's eating, it's sleeping, it's talking, it's doing exercise, it's going to work. If we don't do that in a holy way, we're not trying to sanctify God when we're doing that, that would be considered, we would consider ourselves like an adulterous woman. Really? It's like intense. So we asked, why it's so intense? We said, because, and this is such a fundamental point, because our relationship with Hashem is real. It's intense. Like the story of the philosopher with Rabbi Eliezer, that he said, if you're such a chosen people, then how come you so little? So he said, here in a sentence, that is the proof. Because we're such a chosen people, it's like saying, why in the most elite units in the army, there's so little people? It's exactly it, because it's elite. If it wasn't elite, it's just regular, so then, yeah, you get everyone. But it's elite. And you have to be on a very high standard. And in an elite unit, you can't do any, everything you do is very vital. You have to be very careful, and you have to take care of yourself properly. And we are what we're saying is we are an elite unit, and Jewish people. And therefore, everything that we do makes a very, very big difference. And that's essentially what we're saying. So why are we being considered or being equated to like a suspected adulterous woman? Because anything you do that's wrong on the elite unit is much worse. It's like, to bring out an interesting, funny story. My father told me this many years ago, that when he was in the army. So my father grew up on the kibbutz. So one time he was on guard duty. I don't think he was I don't remember exactly the details, but I think it wasn't even him that did anything wrong. Basically, people are meant to be on guard duty fell asleep or something. And basically everyone tried to not get in trouble. So somehow it got blamed on him. And he goes, I'll never forget the commanding officer. He said to my father, he goes, a kibbutznik? Someone in the city, a city guy, whatever, do things wrong. Yeah, but you're a kibbutznik, like the highest standard. You grow up with different stuff. And this is essentially what we're saying, that we can't look at ourselves. And this is such a powerful, there's two ways to look at this idea. One idea is like, man, it's so hard being a Jew. And every little thing is such a big mistake. Or I'm in such a deep relationship with God that every little thing that I do makes a big difference. And this is exactly what we're saying. We have to realize, and this is 110% in marriage, is the same thing. Every little thing you do makes a huge difference. And this is what we're saying. And that's why it's being compared that way. When you do something wrong, it's not like I just did a little bit. It severs the connection. It makes a very big impact. And that's why you have to be very careful you do. And that's what we're saying. That was the first point. And the second point is Gimel, base. The second point. And this is a beautiful part that I was saying. It's not, the pasuk is talking, this was yesterday's chumash, the pasuk is not about an adulterous woman. It's a suspected adulterous woman. What does she do? Essentially, the husband told his wife, don't seclude yourself with such and such person, and she secluded herself. And we don't know what happened. For all we know, they could have been playing chess. They could have been discussing Sikha or Maimah. Yeah, we don't know. And that's the whole category of the case. And that's all that we're discussing. This when a woman turns astray, it doesn't mean she turns astray and she's an adulterous woman. She turned astray and she secluded herself with someone she shouldn't have. Sorry. And so therefore, the assumption is that she's Torah. But the problem is that she secluded herself. That's what she's called in that she turned astray. Milashon shtus, in the language of a shtus, folly, illogical. Or an animalistic act. And that's why she's being a carbon of an animal food. Which is so interesting, because they're saying she's not giving a carbon of animal food because she's an adulterous woman. Because if we knew for sure that she did, then she'd be a different category. But she's bringing carbon because she's putting herself in a position that is not becoming of her. So it doesn't make sense. But being 1 second of it, we don't know what happened. So therefore, we can assume, assume is only a bad word, but when you assume for the good, then it's fine. So we assume that she's kosher. Nothing bad happened. Like it says, most Jewish women are kosher. Again, talking about this case of the sotah. So therefore, why is she bringing a carbon? The assumption is nothing happened. The only thing that went wrong, essentially, is that she went against what her husband said. So the reason is not not the fact. It's not the fact that she secluded herself and that's why she has to bring a carbon. Because yeah, I'm trying to understand the lashon here, but it seems like what he's saying. It seems like what he's saying, and maybe we'll have to edit this a little bit, change it. But you see, what he's saying is that the reason is not that the essence, the fact, like the essential fact that she is suspected of being tamei. That itself is already ma'aseh behema. Meaning again, this is the same point we said before. Because she's on a higher level, so just being secluded is the problem. He's saying, but what's the problem? Nothing happened. And it's true, nothing. So why should we bring a carbon? We're not bringing a carbon because something happened. You're bringing a carbon because she's on a higher standard. It shouldn't be this way. It's like you have high standards for some people, like we said before, like in the army, you have the Marines or the Sayed Matkal or whatever, they're on a higher standard. See, it doesn't work this way. Even though we do say the fact that she secluded herself is a ma'aseh behema, we say Shem Shemaser ma'aseh behema carbon behema. Her act was an animalistic act. Now you're saying, well, she didn't do anything. Mishum kach af asel lebal, and therefore she's also forbidden to her husband until it's clarified what happened. But this is only for a specific moment until she drinks the water and everything gets cleared up. Because lemaisa practically nothing happened. Ella shevanista, she just secluded herself. And that's why she becomes afterwards to her. Like I said in the pasuk, and she'll have seen, and it says in the pasuk that basically if she's innocent, then everything will go better. She had a hard time having kids. She'll have an easier time. If the pain in childbirth will be less gone away, and all these things, all these brachas, I guess. So now the Rebbe is going to teach this idea back into us. So too with us. When we unfortunately do an avera, which is a ruach shtus, doesn't make sense. Why would we go against Hashem? This is not, like we said by the sotah, this is not that we're contaminated to our husbands So we did something wrong, meaning like for sure. Sharei ubechvaydai hanitzas alaki shebechol ishishol, because the neshama that we all have, someone else I'm not going to give. Like we said before in the pasuk, that Hashem says, I'm never going to give up on these people. So even though for a time being we do an Aveira, but the neshama, our neshama, and this is who we have to connect with, is always connected. Someone else not going to give. Hashem never gives up on us. Never leaves us, chucks us away. Ella shelesha kalo asa ma'is behema. For a certain amount of time we did a ma'is behema. But in the end, next of Nizara, like we said about the sotah woman, in the end she comes clean and everything is good, and she has, and it's more brachas come out of them. And therefore, no one will turn astray. So we'll finish off this ice and we'll discuss it a little bit. There's an additional reason. Move of a pasuk. Now we can understand. This is helping us understand why. Then when we talk about the shtus l'madzel, like the Friedrich brings out in the Maimon, that a person was doing a very unless the Ruach shtus comes. Now we can understand why we use this pasuk of a sotah, which we ask ourselves, why we use such a pasuk? Such a weird. It's so extreme. But now we can understand why we use this, because Kadei Lahasbir, it's coming to explain to us Shekol Inyan Hashtus Lumad Zeb BeYisrael Ein Inyan Shel Tuma Chas V'Shalom Ela Ma'is Behem L'Shak Halom. It's to teach us, and this is why we brought down the pasuk. Because the other question we had is, why are you using this pasuk? There's a lot of Joshua Razal, there's a lot of sayings the rabbis that don't bring a pasuk, but here we do. Why? So we're saying here it's because this pasuk is showing us so much. It's just like by the case of a sotah, that she secluded herself. She did something that wasn't good. But it's not that she chas v'shalom actually did something wrong. And therefore, once it gets clarified that she didn't do actually anything wrong, so she has to bring a ma'aseh, she has to bring a carbon, and she had her act was not good, meaning putting herself in such a situation. But in the end, she comes clean. And once it proves that she's clean, then she gets all these brachas. And so too with us. Even though we sort of become secluded and we separate ourselves from Hashem, and we do the wrong things, but we have to realize Hashem never gives up on us, never separates himself from us. And ultimately, when we do tshuva and everything comes clean, then we get more brachas and more brachas. And there's so many important lessons we can learn from this. But this is also, if you think about it, these lessons it takes the learning of this sikha and really internalizing it and thinking about it. But because essentially there's an underlying theme. He's not saying these words, or you could say he is, but when you think about it, it's a very clear message. And the clear message, the way you look at yourself, even when you're doing something wrong, chas v'shalom, this is not, firstly, it's not who I really am. I have a nefesh elokis, and that's who I really am. And I have to remind myself, it's pasnished. You say to yourself, there's one way to say to yourself, oh, I'm bad, but I should have self-control. The other thing is, I'm good. If I'm good, so why am I doing such a thing? This is belittling to me. It's like, imagine you do something that a little kid does, eat off the floor, let's say. Like, you would never eat off the floor. Why? Me eat off the floor? Like, what am I, a kid? It's the same thing we have to say to ourselves with everything. Me. Sorry about that. Me eat off the floor. That's like a stupid thing to say. So but it applies to the me doing Aveira, me separate myself from Hashem, me not say Shema, me not wash it. Me? What do you mean? Okay, to Hashem, I have enough kiss. And how you talking to such a thing? And this is what we're saying. And when we take ourselves and we look at ourselves this way, and we say to ourselves, but you're gonna say, what do you mean? But you know what I did yesterday, and you know what I didn't do, all these things I should be doing, I'm not doing. And the Yetzer Hara comes with all his good tricks. So you say, yeah, I hear you. But that's just like the sotah. Nothing ba'atzim happened. We just seclude ourselves. It's wrong. And that's why we have to bring a carbon, because it's not good. But Hashem doesn't give up on us. And I just need to bring myself back. And like when I do that, not just I go back to being normal, but it gets even better. It transforms everything. So mitzvah Hashem, by all of us, we should have this. And we'll be continued tomorrow and finish it up. Have an amazing day.